Wait, what? Gretel and Hansel, not Hansel and Gretel, is directed by Oz Perkins and stars Sophia Lillis, Alice Cridge, and Samuel Leakey. Gretel and Hansel is a retelling of the classic fairy tale Hansel and Gretel, the story of two kids who get lost in the forest and they stumble upon this house which is inhabited by a witch. We are in an era of retellings, reboots, remakes, all kinds of stuff. Fairy tales get remade, old movies get remade, books get remade, all this stuff happens, and at this point I'm just along for the ride. This is Hansel and Gretel, but artsy. And I'm gonna be honest with you all, I didn't totally get this one. I'm sure there's gonna be a group of people that like absolutely love this, and I scrolled through Twitter after I saw the movie just to see how people were feeling about it, and there were some people that absolutely loved it, and shout out to you if you love it, but for me, this thing had potential. It did go into some interesting places, but overall, I was kind of left confused and sort of empty. So let's get right into it. What worked? What stood out to me the most out of anything in this movie was the visuals, especially in the beginning when they were telling the exposition story that explains how the witch came to be and the world they're kind of living in. I love the visuals, really nice effects, and there's some cool practical stuff here and there. So no matter what, if you don't understand what's going on, you still have something really cool to look at. And again, this is a very artsy movie. So there's very unique colors, unique set design, unique character design, wardrobe, all that stuff. All these things come together to make it look very stylized, and it does make it stand out as a retelling of this classic story. In terms of characters, I connected the most with Gretel and the witch as a villain. I think these two got the most character development. I was the most intrigued in where their characters were going. Everybody else was kind of just there. I'll get into that later. What didn't work? These are things that didn't work for me, but you may go see the movie and get something different out of it. But these things just took me out of the movie and kind of ruined it for me. So let's get right into it. First thing, performances. I don't know what happened here. I'm not sure if it was the choices of the actors, if it was the direction, or a little bit of both. But something was just kind of off about the performances here. For me, the one that stood out the most was Samuel Leakey as Hansel. His performance just didn't do it for me. I don't think it was working at all. And Gretel was a little iffy too, Sophie Lillis. Now the thing is, I've seen her do good in other movies, especially the It franchise. She was really good in those. But here, she was not as good. And I feel like it was more on the direction because they are given some very weird dialogue. It's supposed to be kind of old-timey, but it's with very American accents, so that kind of was weird. And also, they don't sound like children when they're talking. The dialogue doesn't seem natural for kids to be saying. That kind of took me out of it too. Next, pacing. This movie felt a lot longer than it actually was. There were some interesting things towards the beginning and the end, but the middle just was a real slow crawl. I feel like it was intended to be a slow burn, a very artsy slow burn, but for me that totally didn't work. I was not as engaged in what was happening because there wasn't really a lot going on. There were some creepy moments here and there, but not enough to keep me interested. And that brings me to my last point, the story. I think there was a lot of potential here. The beginning was really interesting, the ending was interesting, but everything in the middle didn't necessarily work for me. There were some weird scenes here and there, some weird actions by certain characters, and ultimately I don't think the story totally made sense. Some parts are left to your interpretation, but for me, I don't think I got enough context clues to really understand what was going on. It is very artsy again, and some things are very abstract and vague. So if that's not your kind of thing, then you probably won't like this movie as much. And before I get into the verdict, I want to reiterate that this is just my opinion. This is my interpretation of the movie, which I really didn't have one because I totally didn't understand it. But there's definitely a market here. There's definitely a group of people that will love this. I'm sure it will become a cult classic. But for me, it just didn't do it. The verdict. I think Gretel and Hansel is... Again, this was not my cup of tea. I didn't totally understand everything, but I'm sure there are people that do, and those people will definitely love this movie. So honestly, you should just go see this one for yourself. I think it is worth seeing in theaters just for the visuals, but it didn't totally do it for me. So, have you seen Gretel and Hansel? What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. By the way, special announcement, if you're watching this on the day it comes out, then I also just released a video on my new channel, which is totally geared towards photography, videography, all that kind of stuff that I tried to do in the beginning, but it didn't actually work on this channel. I have now made a separate channel for all that stuff. So I'm going to leave a link down below, leave a link in the end card, but definitely check it out if you're into those things. All right, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.